The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been going for over a decade now, but a lot can change in 10 years, and so many things weren't able to be adapted because of licensing and other reasons. So here's why the MCU may be rebooting after Secret Wars. Now let me pretense this by saying I don't think this will be a full-on reboot, like a start from the very beginning kind of reboot. But I do think this may be more of a soft reboot, similar to how Secret Wars was in the comics, which might actually give us our first clue this may be happening. Secret Wars, or at least the version they're most likely adapting, is a story where after most universes were destroyed due to incursions, something we've already witnessed in the MCU, and some help from the likes of Doctor Doom, who is all but confirmed for the MCU at this point, all sorts of characters from the Marvel multiverse were left on one planet called Battleworld. And after some wild events went down there was one singular universe for most of the Marvel characters to live in. There was still a multiverse, but this new universe took elements from other major universes and introduced new characters or new versions of old characters. This may be exactly what they're planning for the MCU, to have a new version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe where characters we've lost can return and characters they didn't have the rights to can make their debut, all while being a part of the main Marvel continuity in a seamless way. Take characters like Iron Man, that can't return because, well, he's dead, and mainly because the actor has played the role for so long. Like, the same goes for characters like Thor or Cap. 10 years is a long time in real life to be playing the same role, and now the MCU is doing things a lot quicker, so if they got new actors to play these roles, we could potentially see them in more projects in half the time. And the same goes for other characters who've had real life events impact them. The tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman has left the role of T'Challa unfilled, with so much story still left to tell. Now we can still respect what these actors brought to these roles, while establishing these are different versions of these characters, like variants from other universes, that became our version of the character post-Secret Wars. They can still put some of the old characters like Iron Man or Cap to the side a bit, so all these new characters they're building up, like Strange or Sam Wilson as Cap, can get a chance to tell their new stories. But Iron Man or Thor will still exist in the MCU and could still show up for the big events. And what about the stories they weren't allowed to tell, like the X-Men and mutants existing from the beginning? Now, instead of having to explain why mutants are only showing up now, or have the X-Men exist in a world where they can never meet Iron Man or Steve Rogers' Cap, now they can be here from the very beginning. If this universe gets a new history to it, characters like Wolverine could have fought in World War II with Captain America. Cyclops and the X-Men could have a rivalry with Steve Rogers' Cap and the Avengers, something classic in the comics. And as I mentioned before, the mutant story could feel more organic and less shoehorned in. Like, don't get me wrong, there will always be bigots, but I think it's harder for a world so used to superpowered beings, especially ones who just saved the universe, to hate mutants, at least not to the same level they would have otherwise, with all these events so fresh in their minds. Like, yeah, they responded to the incident in Sokovia with the Accords, but now we're almost a decade past that in the MCU timeline. Like, things are way different. Giving the X-Men and mutants a proper start in the MCU will really allow for these stories to shine. I think there's one more piece of evidence that we already saw though that really gives us an indication this could be happening, and that's Spider-Man freshman year. At the moment, it's not exactly explained what universe this show is in. At first, it was said to possibly be in the main MCU timeline, but characters like Norman Osborn or Doc Ock don't exist in the MCU as far as we know, and definitely didn't meet Peter when he was in high school. In fact, the show seems to be doing a similar plot to what actually happened in the MCU with Peter and Tony, just with more classic elements like Norman Osborn. And since they're so adamant on this existing in the MCU timeline, it got me thinking, well, what if it does? What if this will be Peter's new history post-Secret Wars? Or this is a variant of Peter Parker with his own history that will overwrite our Peter Parker's history from the MCU once Secret Wars happens. Meaning in our new universe, Norman Osborn, Doc Ock, Spidey working with Daredevil are all canon to the main 616 timeline. I mean, Kevin Feige said characters like Spider-Man and Daredevil are the main street-level heroes, but this is so far the only source of them doing something like working together. Not that they need to, but Daredevil will be getting a series, but it is still a bit away, and we have nothing confirmed on the next Spider-Man project yet. So as far as street level goes, we haven't seen them do much, street level things in the MCU. So what if this means this is what we're leading up to? An MCU proper, with mutants existing from the beginning, Spider-Man with all his comic book elements, and all sorts of characters being brought back into the fold without disrespecting their storylines or legacies, and so much more. Marvel may not reboot their universe, but I think the potential of doing a soft reboot like this was too large to ignore, and Secret Wars, just as it was in the comics, could be the place this all happens. What would you want to see change if Marvel did reboot the MCU? Do you think Secret Wars is where this could all go down? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, a like and a sub to the channel would be appreciated. It helps the channel out a lot. As always, I'm Parker Fox, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.